All right, John from Arkansas, he asked if I could point out the differences between the Cruise-O-Matic and a C6. So right here on the floor is a C6. So if you're gonna go look at a car and you don't know what transmission is in it, you probably aren't gonna be able to see the upper part of the transmission, but you will be able to see the oil pan. And this is the big identifier for these transmissions, is the shape of the oil pan. So a C6 is like that. That's the major identifier that you'll see if you're going out in the field to look for one. I pointed out that the spacing of the holes are separate, but you're not even going to get at that. One other big thing, if you're buying them loose, well, obviously the oil pan, but the case is all aluminum on the C6, right from head to toe, and it's one piece, where the Cruise-O-Matic is two pieces there. And the tail shaft will come off the C6 as well. Another thing that the Cruise-O-Matic is, the main body is cast iron. And this is, again, one piece of aluminum. On the 66 model of, I'm not sure if this is a 66 Thunderbird transmission or not. I really don't know. I'll have to see if I can get some numbers off it when I clean it up. But this is the safety neutral switch is incorporated right in the transmission, where on the 65, like I have, it's up on the column still. And here's the wires for the neutral safety switch. And I believe the backup lights too. I'm not 100% sure, but I think John went through all that. John from Arkansas. So anyway, that's a C6, all aluminum, including the tail shaft. The pan looks like that. So let's go take a look at the Cruise-O-Matic that's in the car already. All right, the Cruise-O-Matic, the pan is almost rectangular shape. However, up in here, right by the dipstick tube, you'll see there's a little jet out of it. And also there's the place where the dipstick tube goes in. And mind you, that is a drain plug too, by the way. So when you go to take these down, when you're doing a Cruise-O-Matic, you can just undo the dipstick tube and you got yourself a drain. But for the most part, it's mostly rectangular, except for this little piece here where the dipstick tube comes out and over and back in again. And there's the aluminum bell housing, and it's got a cast iron bell housing, main body, and then an aluminum tail shaft. And then you can unbolt this and switch it out from one side end to the other, rather than the C6 where you have to buy the one that's designed for the engine you're putting it on. All right, so with all that said, the Cruise-O-Matic on its own is easy to identify if you know it's Cruise-O-Matic, but throw in one more thing on this, and that's an FMX. So an FMX and a Cruise-O-Matic look almost identical, unless you know what to look for. And this is what you would probably run into, possibly out looking in a scrapyard or something, and you're looking for a Cruise-O-Matic. The one you're going to get confused with is the FMX, because it has the same bell housing, the same tail shaft, and the same cast iron body. And they actually have a version where the dipstick tube goes in the pan, or it goes up through the casing, depends if it comes out of a truck or a car. So what I'm going to do, I actually happen to have an FMX, so I'm going to take a walk outside and we're going to look at the FMX, and I'll show you the difference in the pan of it. So here's the FMX, an aluminum bell housing, and that one's for a 306 cylinder, because that's what I took this off of. It's got the tail shaft is aluminum, and it has a cast body. And the body castings, they have this marking down the back of them like this, and they flare out. That's the same as the Cruise-O-Matic. They're very much the same, except for this one, you'll see has the dipstick tube that came down in the top of the body of the transmission rather than the pan. Doesn't have the pan one. This pan's a little deeper, but one way you can tell on the shift linkage side where it isn't the same is right here. Now remember I showed you on the Cruise-O-Matic, this piece came out over and down some on this side, Actually, it was right here on this part of it, and the back end of it. There was a big bump, there was a bit of a bump there. So this doesn't have that, but what it has is it's not the same width at the top, at the back, as it is at the front. So it comes along and it jets back in again. So that's the difference right there. And those are so similar, if you don't know what to look for, you will most likely get them mixed up. Because the modulator valve is the same place, the lines go in the same way as the Cruise-O-Matic. So that's how you can tell them apart right there. If you're going out to a scrapyard looking for one of these transmissions, I suggest you print off or save an image of Ford transmission identifiers sheet. There's tons of them. Just go on, look up how to identify a Ford transmission, and they'll most generally show you how to identify the oil pan, because that's the distinct difference in them. And like I said, the FMX and the Cruise-O-Matic are so similar, you could mix up that. So that's it. That's really all I have to say about this. There's some C4s, and of course you get into the newer models and all that, and I don't have any to show you. I don't have a C4 to show. But Cruise-O-Matic, C6, and FMX, this is what they look, these are the differences. All right, guys, I hope this helped. John, I know you already know this stuff, and I know you're just asking for other people, so they don't have to ask the question. But thanks for the question, John, because it is a good one, and this is something that could get mixed up very easily in your quest for a Cruise-O-Matic or a quest for an FMX.